But you guys got to connect the dots. D-O-T-T-S. Dots.
You unlock this door with the keys of Village Hall, unless you're a trustee. Beyond it is another dimension, a dimension of lies, a dimension of billboards, a dimension of theft. You're now in a land where a mayor who is both shallow and of little substance, full of ideas on how to spend the taxpayer dollars. You've just crossed over into the Dolton Zone. Hi you guys, welcome back. I hope you liked my intro. That's pretty much how I felt when he spelled out dots the way he did, and I'm sure that's how a lot of Dolton citizens feel sometimes, as if they're in the Twilight Zone when dealing with a mayor like Tiffany Henyard. Alright, moving on, because we are going to connect some dots today, and that's D-O-T-S, okay? We're going to connect the dots between these 5 men here, because these 5 men are all connected to Tiffany Henyard, being that she personally hand-selected them and put them into various positions that require specific qualifications such as patience, honesty, integrity, and just basic education.
D-O-T-T-S.
And there are a lot of other qualifications that they needed that these men do not have, but she still chose to put them into those positions anyway because it would ultimately benefit her, allegedly. During this video, we're going to look at the issues and controversies that surrounded each of these men, starting with Keith Freeman, also known as Keith the Thief Freeman. And let's see how he got that nickname.
Ravi, late this afternoon inside the courtroom, Keith Freeman said only 2 words and repeated "yes, ma'am" to the federal judge when she asked if he understood that federal bankruptcy fraud charge against him. This afternoon, the South Suburban Village Administrator says he's not guilty.
Just out of his first federal court appearance, the physically towering Dolton and Thornton Township manager Keith Freeman stood beside his defense attorney, silent and defiant. A federal indictment filed last week accuses the South Suburban Administrator of lying about his employment and income when filing for personal bankruptcy earlier this year. Prosecutors say Freeman claimed under oath he was not an employee of Dolton and that he did not receive payment from Dolton. A month later, the indictment says his Dolton paycheck went directly into a newly opened, undisclosed bank account.
And now a new lawsuit alleges Dolton officials gave a barbershop owner the runaround in improperly denying a business license.
When Keith Freeman told me that he's going to give me all the permits and put me in a position where I start working on my property, about time when I met with him again, he told me, "Who are you and do I know you?"
My name is Tyrone Isom Jr. I purchased the property in November. It's 1031 East Sibley in Dolton. I applied with 2 different LLCs. They denied the first one, they denied the second one. I put my money in escrow waiting to get the zoning information on what you guys want me to do with the building, but still nobody really responded. They called me and said, "You got denied." But I'm looking like, if I got denied, can you guys send me a letter and let me know why I get denied? And they told me they couldn't do that. So I'm like, I don't understand. I got a commercial property, and I was here January 4th or 5th when you had a meeting, and I was explaining to you guys that my son got a transplant on the way. The transplant is in a month. I don't know what to do. They're not passing the permits. They're not giving me any information about the zoning. They're just having me in limbo, and they keep giving me the runaround. My kid is gonna be in the hospital, and I don't know what to do next. I just need some help, and just let me know, what can I do? I was just chasing my tail, and as I'm chasing my tail, my finances were wearing thin.
So not only was Keith Freeman indicted on bankruptcy fraud, but he also played a major role in pushing people out of properties that the mayor may have wanted for herself, allegedly. Keith Freeman has also been accused of not being very effective in his position as the village administrator. He's been accused of not communicating with the trustees, not getting them the information they asked for, and among other things, he's also been accused of hacking into the staff's emails, deleting things, and sending emails with important information late to the trustees, and then going and acting like he's been sending everything they need on time all the time when they get to the board meetings. Let's check out an example of such behavior.
All right, any discussion?
Can I be recognized?
Go ahead.
First off, for clarity and transparency, when you keep saying that everything you got, we got, Keith Freeman just went in his office and sent this to us when we just said something about it at, what time is it? 7 something, 8 o'clock at night. We did not have the corporate, credit card bills. We have not had the credit card bills since March when we got it.
So yes, he actually sent the credit card information to the trustees during the board meeting. So, if he was so bold to do this at a board meeting, I can't imagine what he's been doing behind closed doors, especially when there's no one there to call him out on it like Trustee Kiana Belcher just did. Alright, so you guys get the point. Keith Freeman has earned his nickname Keith the Thief Freeman. So let's move on to another one of Tiffany's close allies, Andrew Holmes. So Andrew Holmes is a trustee, but he's really there just to be a solid yes vote for anything Tiffany puts on the agenda. He sits through the board meetings and only talks when he's trying to convince everyone to vote in favor of the mayor's agenda. And his common tactics are to pander to the emotional side of the residents.
I really hope we move forward with this because, see, this goes beyond squatters. But, the protection of the citizens in Dolton, these are predators. This is their job every day. If your parents done passed away, your children are in college, they graduate, and they come back. Of course, a parent or somebody gonna say, okay, well, you done made it, you need a place to stay. We still taking care of grandma's house. Nobody's in there until you go over there and find out that the predators done struck without your knowledge.
And there have been a couple of times where his emotional speeches have swayed the trustees into changing their vote, but for the most part, they know he's full of it and that he's only voting yes because he's one of Tiffany's cronies and he has something to gain from it as well, allegedly. Or he could be voting yes because Tiffany has things on him that he doesn't want to really get out, but something that did get out are the allegations against him stemming from an incident that happened in Las Vegas. Let's watch.
The mayor, her security detail, and several of her allies went to Las Vegas last May to attend a conference to lure retail business to town. Now we've obtained a complaint filed with the Illinois Department of Human Rights in which one of Henyard's aides on that trip accuses a trustee of a counter after she blacked out and had been unable to provide consent. The woman says she later had been fired after reporting the incident to the mayor. In a separate complaint filed with the Department of Human Rights, a Dolton police officer on the mayor's security detail says he had been demoted for coming forward to say the trustee called and FaceTimed with him to brag about his exploits. We are not naming the trustee because he hasn't been charged with a crime. But tonight, he's telling WGN Investigates the woman's story is fabricated and he simply tried to help her while she was intoxicated and high on drugs.
Andrew Holmes is a Dolton Village trustee and ally of embattled Mayor Tiffany Henyard. Dukes was Henyard's assistant at the time. She said the mayor brought her, Holmes, and an entourage of a dozen people to Las Vegas last May to attend an economic development conference. On the last night, Duke said she was relieved when Holmes agreed to go out with her on the Strip to celebrate her birthday.
So yes, Andrew Holmes was accused of this assault on one of Tiffany's ex-assistants. And this lady had Tiffany's back, okay? And she was not afraid to get up at the board meetings and express that she was there to support Tiffany Henyard.
We don't take L's, we take lessons. And in this lesson, I've learned so much. I could really care less about how anybody feels about our mayor. She didn't have to back us in the race, but she did. She took us right under her wing and she's shown us the ropes in this political arena. But I say I never would have thought I would be where I'm at today. I just want to say thank you for seeing something in me. Thank you for pushing me. Thank you for helping me when I seriously, truly needed it. Thank you for everything. And I truly appreciate you and everything you've done.
So as we can see, she was there supporting Tiffany, but when she brought these allegations to Tiffany and she needed her to have her back, Tiffany just brushed it off and then later fired her. All right, you guys, let's move on from Andrew Holmes to another one of Tiffany Henyard's right-hand man, and that is ex-police chief Lewis Lacey. Now, I say ex, there was some back and forth about him still coming to work after he was fired by the Board of Trustees, and then Tiffany Henyard saying they don't have the power to fire him.
This comes after the board voted last night to place the village's top cop on administrative leave, only for him to defiantly return to work today. But this morning, despite the vote, Lacey still reported to work after Norwood says the deputy chief claims the board had no authority to place him on leave.
That is not true. So we did a vote on it, and our vote is actually actually valid at the moment. So we were quite surprised when he showed up at work today. We're waiting for the advice of our attorney to figure out our necessary steps legally.
This is political retaliation.
Embattled Dolton Mayor Tiffany Henyard responded to that vote last night during yet another chaotic meeting amid multiple investigations, including a federal one into her spending of village funds.
I really don't know what the whole situation with that. I think he's pretty much done though. But we're going to talk about him next, because amongst other controversial things that's going on with him, he was also indicted on bankruptcy fraud. Yes, just like Keith Freeman. Let's watch.
The acting police chief of Dolton now facing federal charges. A grand jury indicted him on bankruptcy fraud charges today.
He's a close ally of Dolton's embattled Mayor Tiffany Henyard and the second of her top aides to face a federal indictment.
Deputy Chief Louis Lacey indicted on bankruptcy fraud charges. He's accused of concealing his income from creditors, filing misleading statements as they sought to recoup nearly $90,000 in unpaid debts, this all dating back to 2015. He's also charged with making false statements and perjury. Lacey is a close ally of Dolton Mayor Tiffany Henyard, the second one to be indicted on bankruptcy fraud. Henyard ally Keith Freeman faces the same charge, and we're told he is now cooperating with the trustees who were investigating Henyard, and some believe him to be a whistleblower.
So not only does he have a history of filing for bankruptcy to avoid responsibilities to his debts, but before he was even handpicked and sworn in by Tiffany Henyard, he had already been part of a major controversy and case that ended up costing the village over $33 million. Let's watch.
A Cook County jury has issued one of the largest police misconduct verdicts in Illinois history.
$33.5 million were awarded to two families in connection to a fatal police chase in Dolton back in 2016. Casey Cronus is live with more on this story. Casey?
Anthony and Sally, one man was killed and another was severely injured when Dolton police were pursuing the car they were passengers in back in 2016 during an attempted traffic stop. This all happened in October of 2016. 19-year-old John Kiles was ejected from the car and died when the driver lost control and collided with a dumpster and parked car. Another passenger, Dwayne Dunlap, suffered a traumatic brain injury and other life-altering injuries. On behalf of the families, attorneys with Lovey and Lovey sued the village of Dolton and the Dolton police officers involved in that chase for wrongful death and negligence, among other misconduct claims. And last night, a jury awarded $33.5 million to those families, about $10 million for the family of Kiles and about $23 million for Dunlap to assist with his ongoing medical care.
So that's just a couple examples on some of the controversies surrounding yet another one of Tiffany Henyard's right-hand men and cronies. So next we're going to move on to the inspiration for my intro of this video, and that is Mr. Dots. Okay, so Mr. Dots was recently appointed by Tiffany Henyard as the new village administrator. Let's go ahead and watch this news segment and see why that might be an issue and why he might not be qualified for that position that pays over $100,000 a year. Let's watch.
Not only did Mayor Tiffany Henyard make the hire without consent from the board, we're learning tonight the newest employee has a storied past.
Dane Placco has been following this. He joins us now with this exclusive story. Dane.
Yeah, within hours of Mayor Tiffany Henyard appointing a new village administrator last night, allegations were surfacing about his background, including some startling allegations of inappropriate behavior.
My next appointment will be for village administrator.
Last night, Dolton Mayor Tiffany Henyard appointed a new top aide to a $100,000 a year job without board consent. 34-year-old Michael A. Smith, who's been active in South suburban politics for years.
The reason for Mike is he have a wealth of great information. He's a young person and ex-politician. He knows the laws like the back of his hand.
Perhaps that's because Smith has been in and out of trouble with the law for years. Public reporting shows Smith has been charged at least 8 times with crimes ranging from domestic battery to official misconduct. In 2012, Smith, then a young trustee in Dixmoor, resigned after pleading guilty to theft when he allegedly stole gasoline by posing as a police officer. Then in 2018, Smith was working as an assistant dean at Thornton Fractional High School when he was fired for sexual harassment of a female student, grooming a student with lascivious intent, and inappropriate aggressive behavior towards a male student. According to his termination letter, Smith was accused of contacting a 15-year-old female student on Snapchat with inappropriate comments and making her his girlfriend.
We have a constant pattern of her hiring people without doing a proper background check and presenting it to the board. And that's our issue. That could pose a great danger to our community.
Now, late this afternoon, Smith responded to these allegations through Bo Brindley, who is serving as Henyard's criminal defense attorney in her other case. Smith saying through Brindley that he was cleared of any wrongdoing in the matter at Thornton Fractional High School by DCFS. He also says all the charges in those other cases we talked about were dropped, save one in which he pled guilty and paid a $50 fine. And he goes on to say, and this is through the mayor's statement, says Mayor Henyard renounces efforts by any individual to denounce a man's character based on unfounded allegations and charges that have been dismissed. Now, Smith was already working today at Dolton Village Hall when we stopped by there earlier. Trustees say they are going to try to block that appointment when they meet again.
So, as you can see, there's just like no qualifications to be hired under Tiffany Henyard and her administration. Apparently, you can just do anything, have no morals, have no ethics, do whatever you want, have any type of past, and as long as you're loyal to her, she's gonna find a spot for you, as long as it will help serve her in the long run. Allegedly. And this guy, Michael Smith, has definitely been an avid supporter of Tiffany Henyard, often going to the board meetings in Dolton and in Thornton Township, being there, being a major supporter of hers, and trying to convince the people that, the towns were in deficits, and now they're doing so great now that Tiffany Henyard is a supervisor there in Thornton Township, and now that she's the mayor of Dolton. So he has proven his loyalty towards her, and so this is kind of like her throwing him a little treat to kind of show him, hey, I care about you, when really she doesn't. She's just kind of using him as another pawn, and he'll be another fall guy when stuff hits the fan, basically. Let's move on, because there was something that Trustee Brittany Norwood said that will kind of segue us into the last person we're going to discuss, and someone who was definitely a controversial hire of Tiffany Henyard.
We have a constant pattern of her hiring people without doing a proper background check and presenting it to the board. And that's our issue. That could pose a great danger to our community.
So this statement she made really relates to the last person we are going to discuss. This person is someone Tiffany Henyard hired knowing they had a criminal background that was violent. Not only did she hire this person, she hired them with the authority to go into people's homes. Let's watch.
Residents of South Suburban Dolton reacting to a Fox 32 investigation that found a new village employee with a dangerous criminal past.
He is a registered child offender, and he's now been hired by the village to go into people's homes and businesses.
Now, furious village trustees are taking steps to curb the mayor's power. Fox 32's Dane Placco broke the story, and he has the latest from Dolton.
46-year-old Lavell Redmond wasn't happy to see us when we encountered him today behind Dolton Village Hall. But listen again to the person on the phone telling him to stop talking.
30 years ago.
We don't know who that is, but we do know who got Redmond his village job. Redmond is close to new Dolton Mayor Tiffany Henyard and worked on her campaign. Redmond was hired as a code enforcement officer for the village of Dolton, a job that gives him access inside homes and businesses, which is why Dolton residents were shocked when we showed them what we found online. That's because Redmond is listed as a child sex offender on the Illinois State Police Registry. He served 24 years of a 50-year sentence for taking part in the brutal gang rape and beating of 2 young girls in the Roseland neighborhood in 1991. News reports at the time say Redmond was one of 4 young men who kidnapped the girls and took them to an abandoned garage where they were sexually assaulted and beaten with boards and guns. Dolton trustees say Redmond was hired directly by Mayor Henyard and her village administrator, former Cook County Circuit Court Clerk Dorothy Brown. Later, the mayor issued a statement. I and the Village of Dolton take the safety of our residents very serious, and we would never put our residents in jeopardy. In regard to the matter of the employee who's the subject of recent news stories, know that the incident referred to occurred nearly 30 years ago, and they paid their debt to society. We believe that a person can be rehabilitated.
So as you guys can see, this is just another example of Tiffany Henyard's poor decision making, or decision making on purpose just because it benefits her. Because he went out and he campaigned for her. He was putting in that work because he supported her. And she claimed she didn't know about his history at first before she hired him. And then, as you see, she later on comes back and says, oh, well, we believe in rehabilitation and we believe in second chances. Okay, it's one thing to give someone a second chance. It's another thing to put someone in a position that requires trust and certain qualifications that this individual obviously did not have. Because in order to be able to go into people's homes like that, I'm pretty sure you can't have this type of criminal history, such a violent criminal history at that. Well, you guys, that's gonna sum it up. I think I've pretty much connected the dots for you guys today.
DOTTS. Dots.
All right. And it's just another example of the type of people Tiffany Henyard chooses to surround herself with. And that speaks a lot to her character. So that's going to be it for today, you guys. Once again, if you enjoyed the video, please remember to leave it a like. And if you're new here, subscribe.
But my issue today is about a police officer. Policeman who came out was Officer and Acting Chief Director or Chief Deputy Lacey.
One more time, I am clearing the room. Okay?
But I'm gonna tell you, don't repeat history. And one thing I want to say to the residents of Dolton, make sure you guys educate yourself. But you guys got to connect the dots. DOTTS. Dots.
This doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Come on, let's be smarter than that. This is not just the price is right.
These are predators. This is their job every day.
I needed the public to be aware, because if this man is suffering from some sort of mental illness, everybody needs to be aware.
Ladies and gentlemen, no clapping, please. No outbursts. Let them talk so that way we can move forward with the meeting for safety reasons.
And he needs to have that camera on. I don't care where he's at.
Again, for safety reasons.